Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Stardust, or whatever. Um, yeah, I decided to do a video before school since, last time I recorded a 35-minute long video. It's probably not gonna be that long since, no. But anyway, right? So look, right? Basically, let's just get straight into it. This is basically after Bakugo left. For some reason, my stuff isn't working and I can't trim on this app correctly, so I have to add this now. Sorry about that, y'all, but I'm having problems on this thing. So this is after he catches up with Bakugo. As he kind of glances behind him and sees, like, Izuku just kind of walking behind him casually. As Bakugo just kind of says, "What do you want?" And when he says that, Izuku just kind of, says, there's no reason for you to be ashamed, right? And when he kind of says that on some, he kind of, walks up a little bit faster, kind of ignoring Izuku, because that's basically what everybody else said. So he ain't really taking what he's saying seriously. As when he walks a little bit faster, he noticed Izuku kind of walks a little bit faster. As he kind of just turns around and says, "I said, leave me the hell alone." As he kind of just says, "But there's no reason to be angry. You lost because I used tactics, and I used my abilities effectively. My abilities are more all around than yours. And you were very, 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 very good in how you used your abilities. It was just the fact that I had outthought it from the way that you've used them." As, when he kind of says that, they're kind of outside at this point as he stops. As he kind of breathes in and then looks up at the sky. As he kind of turns around and says, "What, did you just come here to basically penalize me for losing? Well, thank you. I lost. I lost. What do you want? Is that what you wanted? Do you want me to be embarrassed by the fact that I lost to a quirkless loser?" As Izuku kind of just looks at him, and he kind of just breathes in and then breathes out as he's like, "I'm not saying you should be ashamed that you lost to a quirkless loser," he kind of says with, what is it called? Quotation marks on some. As he kind of says, "But what I'm saying is, you should at least try to be less aggravated by the fact that you lost to me." As he basically, looks at him and he's like, "How am I supposed to do that? I lost to you of all people. A quirkless punk that'll never amount to anything. I lost to a loser. I've always been the strongest. I've always been where I needed to be. I've always done what I've needed to do. I've always been the strongest." As Izuku kind of just looks at him as he says, "So you're jealous that I'm stronger than you?" As he says, "I know you're not stronger than me. That's not why I'm angry. And I never be jealous of a quirkless fool like you." As Izuku kind of just looks at him with like a turned head as he's like, "Then what are you angry about?" As he kind of, says, "I'm angry at the fact that you were right with everything that I would do. How reckless I would be just to fight you. Just because I had something out for you." As he says, "Then why do you still have something out for me?" As he basically says, "Because you've never..." Oh. But nah, like I was going to say, sorry about that, y'all. But I might just cut that out. If y'all hear me saying this, my alarm went off, I might just cut that out. But what was I getting at? He kind of just he kind of just gets angry at him and kind of yells at what he's saying, and like he's kind of Izuku can see that he's like really stressed out because like he looks like he's damn near about to cry. As Izuku kind of just looks over at him as he's like, "I've lost before. Don't get me wrong, there's been situations where even I've gotten into fights that I can't win. by the way, he's saying this to make him feel better. It's not the truth, but he's saying it nonetheless. As, he says, not everybody can be perfect at all times. And even if you haven't lost, it's going to happen at some point. You just got to remember that when you lose, you got to get back up and try again. As when he says that, Bakugo just kind of says, how are you going to try again if you're dead? As when he says that on some shit, right, All Might kind of appears right next to him. As, he kind of does what he did inside of Cannon, tells him not to worry and everything. And from this, Bakugo just kind of ignores him and walks off. And, All Might kind of just walks over to Izuku as he's like, what did you do? As he just simply says, I reassured him. God dang. As when he says that on some, he kind of walks off too. As Bakugo's just kind of sitting there, basically like, huh? Because everybody just kind of left without really answering any of his questions or statements. As, basically, time skip the next day. The whole thing with the press happens. The only thing that really differs is the fact that when they ask Izuku a question, he kind of just looks at the camera and just walks off. Not because he's disrespectful, but kind of because he doesn't know how to process the situation, so he kind of just decides to ignore them and just walk off. And yeah, when it comes to class rep and everything, they start trying to decide a class rep and arguing. Ida has the idea of voting. Kirishima kind of says, why don't we vote for Izuku? And then Izuku just straight up looks at him as he says, no. Because he doesn't feel like being class representative. He doesn't feel like having that much pressure on him at all. So, when that's kind of said on some, they kind of vote as he notices he gets picked for class rep anyway. As it kind of annoys him, but he doesn't really cause a scene over it. And yeah. So, basically, after that whole situation goes down, he kind of just sees Ida sulking over the fact that, what is it called? He didn't get a single vote. As Izuku just pats him on the back as he's like, it's okay. It's because of the way that you act. So if you want people to vote for you, you're going to have to act less uptight. People don't like that much authority. It's just in human nature. And as he kind of says that, Ida kind of realizes, even though he does want to protect everything and, stay by what he believes in, he can't just act uptight at all times. That will, make people dislike him, especially at his age where people feel like they have to be held back by, adults or, some type of authority. As when they walk down to the lunchroom, Ochako kind of just asks Deku more about his quirk, or Izuku more about his quirk. As he kind of just says on some, basically his quirk is mostly a tracking quirk, but it also relies off of strength too, and durability. The main facet that I have is strength and speed. Tracking is just a tactical ability that I have. As when he says that, Uraraka is about to respond as the alarm goes off. As soon as the alarm goes off, everybody, is like, what is that? As, one random third year just kind of says, that's the alarm for whenever there's a breach. I've never heard of this in the 3 years of me being in the school. Everybody run. And as soon as he says that on something, everybody begins to run and everything like that. And I'll be right back. What up? I'm back again. It's like 2 days later from the last time that I posted. I've been trying to get this entire thing right. I've been trying not to mess up. That's why, I've been off for so many days. If you guys are seeing this like either today or maybe even tomorrow. It's currently Friday, so if you see it on Friday, I posted it today. But yeah, as everybody begins to run away and stuff, Deku kind of just, like for him, it kind of seems like everything kind of just slows down a little bit as he looks at everybody from class 1A, and he sees Moneta panicking on some, and most of the students inside of 1A, they're mostly calm, but they're also inside of a hurry and getting pushed aside and everything. As he kind of smirks and realizes this is his chance to completely get out of being class rep and having any type of responsibility for, well, anything. As he begins to, run off like everybody else on some, and basically as he begins to run off as everybody else, right, he kind of, while he's running, he kind of hides himself behind a person a little bit as he nudges Ida away into like a wall / into a window, as Ida kind of just slams into the window really hard, as, Ida gets the idea. But what he doesn't realize is, Ochaka was right behind him the way that Izuku did it. So Izuku made it, a thing like where not Bakugo, that Ida would realize that she's beside him and probably make a plan to get everybody's attention, thus bringing the attention away from him and being able to, make some type of way of getting out of being school rep, and also, not having to have anybody feel like he doesn't deserve it or they don't like him due to how he handles the situation. Now, as he does that, Ida gives this whole speech, tells them all that we need to calm down and that it's the press outside. As when everybody else looks over at the side a little bit, they kind of realize the press is outside and they're trying to get through the gate and everything. And I ain't even gonna lie, everybody begins to calm down. And, Ida kind of says, everybody get to your classes calmly. As when he says that, everybody, begins to walk and everything. They kind of get to their classes. They do what they need to do. And, yeah. By the time that they get to their classes on some, what is it called? Then they go through with the rest of their school day. Izuku and Momo decide to hold a meeting, and Izuku kind of ends up convincing everybody to go for Ida. Basically saying, look at how he handled that situation compared to me. I kind of, panicked myself also, and I was running and bumping into people, as you guys could see. And even I can't be brave at all times. And he kind of just begins to break it down to everybody, Bakugo seems not to believe him because he knows how Izuku acts. He's been around Izuku the longest out of anybody else. Momo's also kind of skeptical, but she doesn't really say anything. She mostly keeps quiet because, around season 1 is when she doesn't really talk a lot unless she needs to. But basically, right, as he says that, he gets everybody to, vote Ida as class rep and everything. And yeah, time skip the next day. So after they get back to school and everything, they hear that they're going on a field trip. As everybody begins to pack their bags and everything, their hero costumes and everything like that. And, they kind of, make their way to the USJ. Now, as they make their way to the USJ and everything, they kind of looking around in awe. Even Izuku is a little bit shocked because he's never seen a place this big before. Ever. I mean, it's not necessarily that Izuku is, poor or anything like that. It's just, this is a really big place. It looks almost like a little town. Just for itself. But, they go over to, the black hole hero, and she basically begins to explain to them everything about quirks, and, basically explains that even though your quirk, you want to use your quirk for good, your quirk could just as easily be used to kill people, and everything like that. And Izuku thinks about it, and he does, think about the fact that anytime that he does anything, he kind of just has to hold back. And for him having a quirk, especially a quirk that physically enhances you, he has a very, very strong one. There's damn near, less than 10% of people having a quirk like this. Which, honestly, kind of like really makes him realize he's stronger than what he gives himself credit for. Actually, he's way stronger for what he gives himself credit for. My fault. Oh my goodness, my fault again. I'm trying to check the time. But yeah. So basically, after all that happens and everything, she basically, continues explaining that, this exercise will be used to help you guys, learn how to take care of people during this situation, get through certain environments, and help citizens. There's not going to be any type of battle, right? As when, she says that on some, Izuku kind of just has a bad feeling. As when he kind of has this bad feeling, he kind of, like feels off a little bit. As a black portal looking thing opens, as they see a bunch of people walk out. As, Kirishima says, "Oh, are those the test dummies?" As he literally just face palms because none of these people look like regular people to be saving. They definitely look like, villains. Literally right after she said, "You guys will not be fighting." As, that dude, Eraserhead, basically says, "No, these are actual villains." As when he says that, everybody just kind of gets a look of fear on their face. But Izuku, he's not necessarily afraid. He's more calm and focused. Cool-headed, everything like that. Like, he's ready for anything. And, then, what is it called? Then Kirigiri teleports behind them with the whole thing. She tries to absorb Kirigiri, and everything goes about the same as inside of canon. And basically, Izuku falls a very, very, very far distance into the water. As when he falls into the water on some, the first idea in his head instantly marked the location. As he basically, presses his wrist and, scans forward on some. As he notices like 2 heat signatures. As when he notices these 2 heat signatures, he sees that they're hostile. So definitely not on his team. As when he sees this on some, he kind of, hears something approaching very fast behind him. As he turns around. As when he turns around, he basically sees this shark looking dude. As he says, "No hard feelings, kid, but I'm gonna have to kill you." And as soon as he says this, Izuku kind of just squares up. He instantly squares up. Like, he's standing on business. And as soon as he's about to, go to punch bro, as soon as he approaches him, he kind of just sees Sue kick him in the face, like straight up drop kick him farther into the water. As she kind of asks him, is he okay? As he nods a little bit, still holding his breath. As she kind of, grabs him and uses her tongue to pull them out of the water onto the boat. As he kind of sees a trembling Mineta on the boat also a little bit. As, Mineta looks both cold and inside of a panic. As when this entire situation happens, Izuku instantly goes into, into battle mode as he's like, "Ayo, everybody, we need to be ready." And as soon as he says that on some, they kind of feel the boat rock a little bit. As they see a bunch of villains pop out the cut, like 16 different villains. And yeah, I did count. It was 16 villains. And, when they see this on some, they gonna kind of, begin to panic a little bit. As he asks Froppy, what is her quirk able to do? As she says, she's able to use her tongue to do different things. She's able to spit out an acidic mucus, but Max, all it will really do is just upset your skin. She says she's able to spit out everything in her stomach to clean it, but that's not really useful. And she says her fingers are, able to stick to things, so she can walk or specifically climb on surfaces. As when he hears this on some, he's like, okay, that could be useful. As he looks over at Mineta, as Mineta kind of, looks at him as he says, what is your quirk? And he says, well, I have these purple balls on my head. As he pulls one off, as he says, and depend on how I'm feeling, depends on how strong they are. As Izuku just looks at him. He doesn't even say anything. He just looks at him. He doesn't even stare at him. It's just a very, very disappointed look for a couple of seconds. As Mineta kind of, just puts his head down inside of shame, as he kind of just, shakes his head as he says, should I? As he kind of, pulls out his gun on some. As he's like, no, I can't use that. As he reholsters it on some. Because, his gun has rubber bullets and everything. But first off, if he shoots into the water, it might not do as much damage. And also, even if he does hit them, with them having the types of quirks that they do, they could have more durability. So these bullets could do absolutely nothing. Or just barely hurt them. And as soon as, he thinks of this on some, he kind of hears a villain say, hurry up, we're getting impatient, as he slashes forward as Izuku grabs Mineta and not Ochako, Mineta and Froppy, and he moves them out of the way fast as hell. As when he moves them out of the way, he kind of sees half of the boat just get sliced in half. As Izuku's heart begins to beat very fast and hard as he realizes, but he realizes on some that this is a real situation. Their lives are actually in danger. They can die at any second. And as he realizes this, his heart begins to beat really fast as, Ochako and, Mineta kind of ask him, is he okay? As, he's not really able to respond, but all he can feel is just his heart beating in his chest, hard as hell. As, they've never seen him react like this before, and he's never felt this way before since he's had his quirk. Seriously, ever since he's had his quirk, he has never felt this much emotion. This isn't just fear, this is straight up terror. As when he realizes this, he kind of just balls up his fists on some, and then he releases them slowly. As he breathes in and breathes out doing some breath exercises, as, Sue kind of, looks at him as she's like, are you okay? As he basically says, yeah. And as he says this on some, he kind of closes his eyes. As he kind of begins to think of every different situation that could happen. And with their current abilities and with his, they're all useless here. They're going to die by themselves. Even though Sue has a water quirk against 16 people, she's not going to be able to do anything. The fact that he doesn't have a water quirk, his punches are going to be a lot slower and less deadly. Or not deadly, a lot less damaging underwater. As, he kind of just decides to calm himself completely. As when he does, he feels this, rising feeling inside of his chest. And as he does, he kind of sees an entire screen of weapons pull up right in front of him. As he looks shocked, as he's like, what the hell is this? As he kind of, looks at them as they don't see anything. They're kind of just looking at him weirdly because he's looking off into the distance, kind of inside a shock. Even though they can't see his face, they can still, kind of tell his body language and tell that he's shocked about something. And they're guessing, there's something they can't see because they know he can see, they know he has a detection type quirk or a tracking type quirk mixed together. It's not only just tracking, it's also detection mixed in with it. So they're wondering if there's some type of villain that has an invisibility and water quirk. But as they're thinking this on some, Izuku, basically, shakes himself out of it. Is there someone here or something? As he's like, no. As he begins to slowly scroll through the weapons on some, as he sees, assault weapons, burst weapons, semi-automatic weapons, he's seeing all of this, and he's even seeing stuff like energy weapons. Stuff that he's never seen before. Stuff that shouldn't even be possible to be able to be made yet without quirks. As he's wondering, what the hell is my true quirk? Did I just get a quirk awakening from being being stressed. And as he's thinking of this, he's like, no. If I got a quirk awakening, my quirk would either get stronger, or I'd make something that I've, at least never seen before. As he kind of thinks about it, as he says, I've had dreams about these weapons before, but I've never actually had experience using them. And as he's looking through them, he realizes everything here would realistically kill a human upon contact. As he kind of just looks through, as he sees a compound bow. As he sees, if you actually end up landing a shot, it does pretty decent damage. So about 3 shots for the equivalent of him will break the shield. So 3 shots for a normal person should kill them. But he's not looking to kill anybody. As he kind of begins to fight this internal battle on whether or not he should kill people for the sake of his friends. And what he realizes is, I'll try not to kill people, but if it gets to that point, I won't hesitate. As he kind of presses on the bow, as they kind of see a bow materialize before him and a quill onto his back as it kind of falls into his hands. As, Mineta kind of says, where the hell did you just get a compound bow from? As he says, I don't know. I think it's some type of new power from my quirk. And, when he says this on some, he kind of pulls out an arrow on some and puts it to the bow. As he pulls it back, and then he shoots it off at one of the villains. And it completely misses. As the villain just kind of looks, as he's like, what the hell was that? As he kind of just, looks a little embarrassed as he pulls out another arrow. As he pulls it back and then shoots at another one. Fast as hell trying to get that dude. But he completely misses that time. Even if, he would have gotten anywhere close to him, he probably would have still dodged due to the fact that he pulled back fast, but not fast for Archer. As, the villains are just sitting there making fun of him every single time that he shoots off a shot, and he only has 30 shots inside of there. As eventually Sue kind of just, kind of grabs his shoulder. So he turns around inside of confusion. As she says, calm down. You're thinking about it too much. As he realizes she's right. As he slowly grabs an arrow and then puts it onto the string, and he pulls it back on some. And then he lets go. And as he lets go, it hits one of the villains inside the shoulder so goddamn fast. Like, he's never seen an arrow from a bow go that fast before. It was so fast that he could barely see it. And he has an, enhanced perception. As he did see that it said mythic. I mean, he's guessing that means that it's some type of powerful bow, or maybe it does a lot of damage, or maybe it has, some type of mystical abilities or something. As, the villain kind of just screams as he gets shot inside the shoulder, and Izuku kind of just smiles as he sees the villain just kind of sink into the water slowly, as he pulls out another arrow fast as hell, pulls back the bow, and as he pulls back the bow, he feels this type of energy. As when he feels this type of energy, he sees one of the villains floating over to him fast as hell, or swimming over to him fast as hell. As soon as he's about to let go of it, he sees this blue glint on the string of the bow. As he lets go, as that bow literally goes so fast it creates a shockwave, and then literally hits the person, goes straight through their shoulder into the water. As when it goes into the water, it creates a little shockwave. As that dude literally begins to it looks like he got hit so hard he can't even scream. It looks like he wants to scream, but he can't. As he kind of just flails and sinks under the water. As Izuku kind of just smiles looking at this. As, he kind of looks and, he's kind of wondering what type of power this is. What made him this powerful. And he grabs another arrow, but this time it's different. This time it feels more, he feels primal. He feels like he's an apex predator. He feels inside of his element. Before this, he's never used a bow and arrow before, but he feels different than he's ever felt before. As when he puts the arrow onto the bow, and pulls back the string glows blue immediately. And then it glows a golden color as the tip of the arrow turns red with a fiery type of energy or element. As when he closes his eyes, he says, "Death of the wild, beast of the hunt." As when he lets go of the arrow, it creates a giant ass shockwave back onto them. As Sue and Mineta get knocked back a few feet. As when it hits the water, it literally it accelerates fast as hell as the water turns orange, and then everything blasts back far as hell. As when everything blasts back on some, he kind of notices, every villain gets knocked out of the water onto shore. As he's wondering, what the hell was that? As when he's wondering that, he kind of realizes the boat begins to sink faster due to the, shockwave and everything and the water being disturbed. As, Sue's like, there's no time to figure out what that is. We gotta go. As she grabs, Mineta with her tongue and grabs Izuku as she jumps off. And that's where I'm going to leave this for now. I appreciate everybody. Like and subscribe if you want to. I don't really care about all that, though. Leave a comment for stuff that you actually want. That's not me wanting comments. That's just me saying, if you guys want something, my fault, then you're going to have to ask for it. I'm not going to just do stuff and expect you guys to know. If you guys want certain things, ask me. If I know them, I'll do them if I know them. But if I don't, I might do research depending on the situation. And with everything said, I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful day. Check into the Discord if you want to talk to me or if you want to do some D&D stuff. And yeah, hit that outro.